You've seen cowboy hats in every Western movie, on every rodeo star, but the cowboy hat ain't just a hat, it's a story. A story of grit, of rebellion, of survival under an unforgiving sky. It was born from dust and sweat, shaped by the hands of outlaws and ranchers, and carried through time by legends. But there's one truth about this iconic crown that few people know, and once you hear it, you'll never see a cowboy the same way again. Saddle up, this ain't just fashion. It's history stitched in felt. Before a cowboy ever speaks, his hat tells you everything. It's not decoration, it's declaration. That wide brim isn't just for shade, it's a badge of grit. A crown worn by outlaws, ranch hands, lawmen, and drifters alike. You see one silhouetted against a dying sun, and you know, this ain't just anyone, it's a story on two legs. Every crease, every sweat stain earned in dust and fire. The cowboy hat didn't follow fashion, it made its own trail. And anyone who wore it was saying one thing loud and clear: I answer to no one but the land. You can spot it from a mile away. A lone rider, still as stone, framed by the dying sun. That wide brim shadow stretching long across the ground. There's no mistaking it. The cowboy hat completes the legend. Without it, he's just a man. With it, he becomes something more, mythic, untouchable, timeless. It's not just shape and shade, it's a signal, a warning, a promise. That silhouette ain't fashion, it's folklore burned into the horizon. And when you see it, you don't need words, you already know that's a cowboy, and the land answers back when he rides. The cowboy hat wasn't born in a boardroom or dreamed up by fashionistas. It was forged out of grit and need. Before it crowned legends, it shaded the eyes of ranch hands riding fence under a punishing sun. Its roots, a blend of vaquero wisdom and frontier problem solving. The brim kept the sun off your neck, the crown let the heat rise off your head, and the felt held up through rain and hell. This hat wasn't about looking good, it was about staying alive. And in that survival, it became something more. It became part of the man. Before cowboy hats became a symbol of the American West, there were vaqueros, Mexican horsemen who rode with unmatched skill and pride. They wore wide-brimmed sombreros, not for style, but for shade, dust, and respect. These were the first true cowboys, passing down their grit, gear, and ways to the newcomers riding north. The tall crowns and sweeping brims of modern cowboy hats owe everything to that legacy. Every time a man tips his hat today, he's echoing a nod born south of the border. The roots run deep, and cowboy hats still carry the shape of that first rebellion. Before the cowboy hat claimed the West, there was the bowler. British-born and built for railways and city grit, that rounded crown made its way west with bankers, sheriffs, and outlaws alike. It wasn't flashy, it was tough. Sturdy enough to stay put in a shootout, low enough to duck a swinging saloon door. Bat Masterson wore one. So did Butch Cassidy. In towns where the wind blew hard and bullets flew harder, the bowler held its ground. And though cowboy hats stole the spotlight in time, the bowler left its mark. Quiet, stubborn, and just as Western as any wide brim. The cowboy hat as we know it today didn't just appear, it arrived like a legend. John B. Stetson saw a need out west, tough men braving brutal sun, lashing rain, and choking dust with nothing but ragged headgear. So he built something better, broad-brimmed, high-crowned, and ready for hell or high water. His boss of the plains wasn't just practical, it commanded respect. Cowboys didn't just wear them, they lived in them. Suddenly, cowboy hats became more than gear. They were armor, identity, home. And once that felt crown touched a man's head, He walked taller. Stetson didn't just start a business, he sparked a movement. From cattle drives to saloon standoffs, cowboy hats now told a man's story before he even spoke. You can spot a cowboy by his hat before you ever see his face. It's not just for shade, it's who he is. Some hats are tall and proud, worn by men who speak loud and laugh louder. Others are low and worn in, shaped by storms and silence. A tilt to the left might mean friendly, a pull low could mean trouble. It's how they say hello, it's how they say back off. It's what they grab when the preacher prays or when a woman cries. A man might change his boots or his coat, but that hat, that's his story. It holds dust from the land he loves and sweat from work he never dodged. You can pass a hat down, but it takes living to earn its shape. The American West didn't make things easy. It carved its mark in every line on a man's face and every crease in a cowboy's hat. Cowboy hats weren't just protection, they were armor. Against dust storms, prairie wind, and the sting of driving sleet, that brim stood between a man and misery. Many hats came home torn, scorched, or with bullet holes, silent witnesses to bar brawls, border skirmishes, and range wars. In the Civil War, Confederate scouts and Union cavalry alike wore wide-brimmed hats instead of standard-issue caps, because cowboy hats worked, period. Later, when World War I rolled around, many cowboys traded saddles for trenches. And even there, under helmets, they rode home about the feel of home, about dust and horses and the way a cowboy hat made a man feel whole. When they returned, many hats were placed on mantles, in glass boxes, or passed down, the felt holding sweat from long days and quiet nights. Some hats were never worn again. Others, they went back to work like their owners, scarred but still standing. The cowboy hat didn't just ride trails, it rode into theaters and lit up the screen. John Wayne tipped it before a shootout. Clint Eastwood wore it like armor. Suddenly, that brim meant grit, mystery, and heroism. Hollywood turned the working man's hat into a symbol of legend. Bright lights, silver spurs, and spotless hats made cowboys larger than life. Kids copied it. City men bought it. Women swooned for it. And even if you never rode a horse, you could still wear the look of a loner with honor. Thanks to Hollywood, the cowboy hat became more than gear. It became a halo. They didn't wear badges. They wore wide brims and devil-may-care smirks. Jesse James, Billy the Kid, Butch Cassidy. Before you feared the gun, you noticed the hat. Tilted low, dented just right. It wasn't just protection. It was a challenge, a warning, a crown for men who rode outside the law and lived by their own rules. Hollywood dressed them up, but the real outlaws made the hat infamous. One look and you knew. This man didn't follow orders. He wrote his own legend. Because in the Old West, your hat didn't follow the law. It broke it. A badge caught the light, but the hat held the weight. Sheriffs didn't just wear cowboy hats, they wielded them. Brims pulled low, eyes like steel. Every crease said, "Order starts here." In dusty towns where law was just a word, the sheriff's hat stood firm. It wasn't for style, it was for standing ground. You could hear the spurs, sure, but that hat, it told you justice had arrived. Because when trouble came looking, the sheriff didn't raise his voice. He tipped his hat and dared it to keep coming. A cowboy's hat wasn't for show, it was survival. Shaded his eyes on cattle drives, shed rain in a storm, and kept dust from choking his lungs on the trail. He'd shape it with calloused hands, not care for style, but for shelter. It scooped water for his horse, fanned a fire, or waved down help. Sweat stained the band, dust caked the brim, but That just meant it was doing its job. This wasn't decoration, it was armor. Worn, battered, and broken in, just like the man beneath it. A cowboy's hat wasn't just worn, it was spoken through. Tilt it low and you meant business. Tip it to a lady and you showed respect indoors, you took it off. Unless you were fixing to fight or pray, every movement mattered. You didn't touch another man's hat unless you were ready to draw. And if a cowboy took off his hat for you, it meant something. These rules weren't written down, but break one, and you'd feel the silence faster than a slap. 'Cause out here, a man's manners were measured in how he wore his hat. A cowboy didn't need to speak. His hat said it all. The way he creased the crown, curled the brim, or shaped the front told you where he came from, who he rode with, and how long he'd been riding. South Texas pinch, he'd seen dust and drought. Montana peak, that man rode high country. No two hats were shaped the same because no two lives rode the same trail. It wasn't fashion, it was identity, bent, burned, and branded into felt. And if you ever tried to copy it, you'd just prove you hadn't earned it. In a frontier saloon, your hat spoke louder than your words. A clean, stiff brim, you were fresh off the train, green and likely to get hustled. Hat pulled low and beat to hell, that meant you'd seen things and folks gave you space. Tip your hat to the bartender and he might pour you a drink on the house, but knock someone's hat off in a crowd, that was a challenge, not an accident. In the West, your hat wasn't just part of your outfit, it was your reputation, and sometimes it started the fight before your fist did. A cowboy's hat didn't die when he did. It lived on, brim bent by time, stained by sun and grit. A boy might inherit it too big, crown dipping over his eyes, but he wore it anyway, proud of the weight it carried. That hat had seen cattle drives, shootouts, heartbreak, and hailstorms. And every mark meant something. Fathers didn't leave much behind, but if you got the hat, you got the legacy. You felt him there in the sweatband, in the tilt of the brim, in the way folks looked twice when you walked by. Some things aren't passed down, they're forged. Women didn't just wear cowboy hats, they owned it. From dusty trails to roaring arenas, women proved they belonged in the saddle and under the brim. Ranch queens held the line during war and drought, doing the work of 10 hands with grit and grace. Rodeo champions kicked down doors and showed the world that toughness ain't got a gender. Their cowboy hats weren't decorations, they were declarations. Creased by courage, tilted with pride, every woman who rode tall in a cowboy hat helped redraw the lines of the West. She didn't borrow the legacy, she carved her own. No two cowboy hats told the same story. Some were black as midnight, others sun-bleached to bone. A high crown might say you rode trail for days. A deep front crease, you were a man of business, fast, firm, no nonsense. Wide brims meant weather, narrow meant town. The curl of the sides, the dip of the front, even the band wrapped around it, it all meant something. A cowboy didn't need to open his mouth to be understood, his hat did the talking. And folks listened, 'cause in the West, how you wore your hat was how you carried your name. Once it shaded a rancher's eyes from the sun and turned dust from his brow. Now it struts down Paris runways, reimagined in leather and velvet. But even high fashion can't fake grit. Real cowboy hats still carry sweat and stories. Designers borrow the brim, but cowboys made it mean something. Each time it's worn right, creased, curved, and earned, it's a salute to the ones who rode before. Trend or tradition, that crown still belongs to the trail. Some hats come straight from a mold, but the ones that matter Those are built by hand, shaped by calloused fingers and purpose. The felt's soft, but the crown iron tough. Creases follow the lines of the life that wears it. Every burn mark, every smudge, every bend, that's not wear, that's legacy. A custom build ain't about fashion, it's about function, grit, and story. These hats don't sit pretty on a shelf. They ride through storms, soak in sweat, and hang beside legends. You don't choose a hat like that. It chooses you. Sometimes when a cowboy hangs up his hat, it ain't about quitting, it's about honoring what was. A hat laid on a coffin says more than any eulogy ever could. On a fence post at the edge of a pasture, it stands guard like a ghost that still watches over the land. Inside homes, it gets a place of honor above the mantel next to a photo, worn and sacred. Retired, sure, but that brim still tells the story. Some men walk tall, but their hats sag like truth, trying to run from a lie. A real hat's got scars, like its owner. You earn the weight of that brim with every mile and mistake. Fancy buckles come and go. Your hat sticks with you through storms and shootouts. The hat don't just tell who you are, it tells who you were. And when a cowboy's gone, that hat still talks, because your hat don't lie. It remembers everything you did beneath it. The cowboy hat didn't vanish when the frontier faded. It adapted. Rodeo arenas roar louder than ever, and every champion still bows under a brim. Ranchers ride fence lines with earbuds in and hats on, Bluetooth in one ear, grit in the other. Even city boys wear them now, some for fashion, some trying to earn what it means. But no matter the setting, the real ones wear their hats like second skin. Because out here, under open skies and open wounds, the cowboy hat still stands for something. A cowboy hat ain't just headgear, it's who you are before you say a word. It tells where you've been, what storms you've weathered, what fences you've mended. It's the first thing you tip to show respect and the last thing you take off for someone you love. That brim shields more than eyes. It guards pride, grit, and the weight of a name. You don't just wear it, you earn it every day under the sun. In the city, on the trail, in the ring, wherever it goes, it speaks of something true. It don't bend easy, and it sure as hell don't break. A cowboy hat is more than style. It's a flag, a face, a vow. And like the men and women who wear it, it ain't going anywhere. If this story stirred something deep, go on and hit that like button. And if you're the kind that still believes in grit, honor, and riding tall when the world tries to knock you down, subscribe to Cowboy Chronicles. We got more tales wearing dust and truth just waiting for you round the bend.